Hello, Kelly here with Kelly's Soroka Life, and it is the last day of 2025. And this year it was either, for me, it was either way up here or way down here. There didn't seem to be a lot of times where there was just something in the middle. But it was, it was a great year. I had lots of things that went really well. And and the reason that a lot of the things I believe that went well for me was because I planned ahead. I looked ahead. I knew the things that were coming up. I listened to my intuition at the end of 2024 to see and make changes and things that I wanted to do, and making new choices. And a lot of that just kind of brought me joy and brought me to places where I really enjoyed things, enjoyed life. And there were times, of course, that did not go as planned and were very disappointing and heartbreaking, but that is life. And but knowing and having the tools and having everything that I have to work with it just really makes a difference. And one of the things that I do work with, and this is what we're going to do today, is pick a card of the year. Now, I pick my card of the year. I don't just use a numeric, well, I do use numerical cards. Like this year, 2026 coming up is a 10 year. And so you can use the 10, you can use the 1. It can be the card of the Fool because it's a 1 and a 0. It can be the 1, the Magician, but most people are looking at it as a 10, the year of 10, and using the Wheel of Fortune for this year. So it's definitely an energy that I'm going to look at. And then if I look at my birth card and look and use the numerical where you add up the numbers, and that's how we get the 10, the 6, the 2, and the 2 from 2026. So if I use my birth date in 2026, then I get 7, and that is the card of the Chariot. So I use that energy as well, but I also pick a card for me from the whole entire deck. So I don't just use the major arcana, because I feel like that I've gotten ones that I've got cards that I can work with and energies that I can work with in that way using numerology. So I really want to just pick from the whole deck. And I started doing this several years ago. And I think the first time I picked from the whole deck, it was maybe 2020, and I got the Knight of Pentacles. And, we all know what happened in 2020. And so the Knight of Pentacles, it was a really good card for me to work with because it really forced me to slow down. And I was in a forced kind of slow down and during that time. And so it was a really good card to work with. And so I just having that card and having that experience with a card, not just picking a major arcana card, then I've done that for the other years since then. And last year, my card was the 2 of Swords. And I did this past year have to make a lot of really hard decisions and cut off some things that had been in my life for a long time. But knowing that was my card, and knowing that I was doing the right thing, that it wasn't something that I was doing that I had thought about. And the 2 of Swords is the person with the swords here, or the traditional card, the Rider-Waite-Smith traditional card. The person is sitting here with the swords crossed with a blindfold on, but with water behind. So going inward, so knowing and going inwards and doing that for myself, first of all, made me realize that I really did make decisions, and I didn't make them lightly, and that I didn't rush into something, and I didn't just, you know, into something in haste. And so I took my time, I thought about it, and then made the decision. So that, looking back at that card and just not knowing what was coming in the year, but having that card and now looking back at it and knowing that it really was there for me and it really did support me. And so I feel like that I trust my intuition more when I just let it go, when I just like that, I just go through the deck and pick a card and know that the card that I need to work with is going to come to me. In this past year, I did kind of the same thing. I worked with I started out with my card of the year, and I also started out with allies, with spirit allies that I worked with. And so the ones that I worked with this past year, the whole year, I worked with Sage and I worked with Green Aventurine. And so those were my cards for, or my spirit allies for this past year that just kind of came with me the whole year, and things that brought me, that gave me messages the whole year. And I didn't really do a formal practice with them, but they were just things that I had and things that I worked with the whole year. And I just picked them intuitively, and they came to me, and they were definitely things that were very helpful for me, and that I learned lessons from throughout the year. So then I started doing that every month. I started picking spirit allies to work with, a deck of crystal, or a spirit allies for the month. And so I picked 4 different things to work with during the month. And so the first one was a crystal, and the second was an herb, and the third was a deck that I studied and worked with. And then the fourth was a book that I read that that I wanted to read, that was on my my to be read list, and one that I hope was giving me a lesson about something at the time. And so many times this past year have things come up, and even though I picked all of these things ahead of time in the beginning, at the end of the year before, so many of the things came out and were just so serendipitous and gave me messages that I really, really needed. So I've done that again for this year. I picked a card of the year. I picked and 2 spirit allies to work with. And so, while I don't really have a book of the year or a deck of the year, I do use the Green Witch Tarot, as this is kind of my very favorite deck. So when I need something like this, picking a card of the year or something like that, then I do go to the Green Witch Tarot. So I have done that and want to share that just a little ritual with you here today. And I'll have a PDF for you that you can download and do your own card of the year ceremony for yourself and pick a card for the year. And you can do this anytime, you can do this anytime in the next, you can do it today at the end of 2025, you can do it tomorrow, the first day of 2026, you can do it, anytime during the first week of January or in January, whenever you want to do it, whenever you feel like that you're ready for that card of a year. So don't feel like that if you miss it on January 1st that you can't go back and do it, because you certainly can. And so it was very interesting, again, just the serendipity and the depth and intuition and connection of the cards and the and crystals and things that I work with, and how it just comes up. And so about a month ago, I started making my list for this new year of the things that I wanted to work with, the 12 decks that I wanted to work with, the 12 books that I wanted to read, the 12 herbs that I wanted to work with, and the 12 crystals that I wanted to work with. And so I also picked an herb and a crystal, kind of like last year, as my spirit allies for this coming year. And so I did this using a deck, and this is called the Apothecary, I believe it's Apothecary Spirits, oracle, and it's a wonderful deck. It has not just it has lots of herbs in it and plants in it, and has very good uh, descriptions where you can use this, but it also has some included cards like the mortar and pestle and the and tools that you use as, you know, an apothecary witch. So it's a great deck. And so I used that and went through the deck and just kind of picked some ones that, you know, not the ones I worked with last year, ones that I wanted to work with, and just let the deck, you know, choose for me so that I would have a card and I would have an herb to work with. So the one I picked for, and this is the back of the cards. And the one I picked for this year is ashwagandha. And I just picked it. I knew that I had some ashwagandha root, and I knew that it was one that I did. It was pretty new to my herbal collection, and I knew that I did want to work with it. So when I picked this one, oh, that's going to be interesting. I can work with it. It's really good. I know that it's been very popular recently as a supplement for focus and for helping you deal with anxiety and sleep issues. So I wanted to really work with this herb, and I thought that's a great one. So when I was sitting down today to kind of look ahead and see, you know, what ashwagandha is really about, I read the entry in the guidebook, and ashwagandha, the word translates into horse smell, or the smell of a horse. And what is this year that is coming up? It is the year of the horse. And we used to have horses, and lots of them, and know the smell of a horse very, very well. So I thought that this was, you know, my horse spirits that I worked with in the past, and this was just going to be, you know, very good herb to work with for the year for many different reasons. But I just thought that was just, you know, so interesting that it came up as the herb to work with for this year. So I have some here with me, and I'm going to do a little ritual with it in just a minute, with the card and the other spirit ally that I have. And so the crystal that I chose to work with, again, I just chose this just randomly from crystals that I have, and this is red jasper. And red jasper is a very good, and it's one that I have worked with, and it's very familiar to me. And I think it goes well with ashwagandha because I don't know much about ashwagandha, but I do work with and have worked with red jasper for many, many years. It's a very good grounding stone. It's one that I use when I have root chakra work to do. And because it's very grounding, it's very you know, it just gives you something to hold on to. And it again is very good when you have anxiety and when you feel out of sorts. You know, you can grab this, you know, just a piece of red jasper, put it in your hands, and you can just immediately feel that, just, you know, just taking a deep breath and just feeling that grounding. And ashwagandha is a very, you know, it's a root, it's very grounding as well, and helps with anxiety. And so I think those two uh, spirit allies, are going to be very good guides for me this year. So I wanted to bring them along as we do this ritual for the card of the year. And again, it doesn't have to be anything, you know, you can make this as elaborate as you want. But for me, I just like to make it very intimate. And so it's just me and the cards, and here and a few things that I, you know, want to bring in to this year, and things that are meaningful to me. So the card that I picked, or that was picked for me for the year, is the Nine of Wands. And this again is from the Green Witch Tarot. And this card, I like it because the wands is very fiery, and that goes a lot with my astrology, and I have a lot of fire in my chart. But the 9 is also getting to, it's not quite to the 10. So it's still, there's still things out there to do, but it's that kind of feeling like, you know, that just being able to say, it's been, when things feel like they're not going to get better, or when things feel really hard, or when you feel like something has just, has just been an ordeal, you can really pause with this 9 of Wands energy and say, I've gotten through it. I've done it. I've gotten through it. And that might be, the message from 2025 is, the thing, a lot of things that happened, they happened and they're done. And now it's time to really, just take a pause, rest, but know that you still need those boundaries, that there's still going to be things that are going to be worth fighting for in the future, and things that are going to be worth, there's still room for growth, there's still room for creativity, there's still room to do things for myself that I want to do. There's things that, magic to be made, and things to be created in this new year. And so, keeping and making sure that, other things don't impinge on that, and don't, and that I make sure that I don't let other things, keep those boundaries up, because it's very easy to get distracted, and especially in today's age, it's very easy to get distracted. It's very easy to see things, and just to scroll, because you don't want to deal with something. And so this is saying, take a moment. You might need to do something like that for a minute or two, but then come back, and let's see what we need to do. Let's keep building, and be creative in finding a solution. So I love this card, and I love this deck. And so it's one that, I take a picture of it, and so that I have it on my phone, and I have it somewhere that I can, put it and work with it all year long. And so you can do the same thing as well. And if you don't have a tarot deck and you want to use an oracle deck, that's wonderful as well. Or you can use a rune, whatever, whatever's going to bring you good a good message for this year. So I do have this PDF, and you can use this. I'm going to use this and fill it out as soon as I'm done here. So I'm going to write about my card, and then I have 3 more cards down here that I'm going to draw, and I'm going to use a different deck for this one. And I'm going to use the deck that I'm going to be studying in January, which is the Magical Hours Tarot. So I'm going to use that one. And I have places you can write here, and then places you can write on the back, and do your reading here, or journal, or whatever you want to do for that. And you can also, if you do this, and this is probably what I'll do also, is if you take a picture of your card, you can print out just a little, make a little printout of your card and put it here as well. So you'll have a picture of your card as well. Okay, so let's do, going to get a message from this 9 of Wands, and from the ashwagandha, and from the red jasper that I have here. So as I do my reading, to light a candle, and it's just a little bit ashwagandha root in it. I'm also going to put in, this is violet oil that I made from the fresh violets in our yard this past spring. So it's putting in that, bringing in the new spirit, the ashwagandha for this year, but then mixing it with the violet, which was, which grew right outside my window in the spring. And so from this past year, bridging the gap between the last year and this year, and making it a cycle, making it not something that just ends one day and then begins the next, because it is, it is a cycle. We're moving into a new year, and it's not, it's not so much linear that it's just one and then, everything is done, because this year is going to, it's going to circle back, and all of the years that you've lived circle back around. And so this again is the circle of life. And even right now, things are, and where I am, everything, is pretty much gone and dead. There's not much growing outside. But in just a few months, these violets will be growing again. And so it's very much a cycle. So I want to, bring that cyclical energy in with me. So with my Nine of Wands, get this is the Magical Hours Tarot. And so I'll be going to study this one in January. So you'll hear more about this one in January. So the questions are, number one is, how will this card be a friend to me this year? Question two is, what challenges might this card bring? And number three, what lesson may I learn from this card? So I'm going to draw my cards. So how will this card be a friend to me this year? So here I have the Page of Cups. So this card is, because it is a fire card, and it's it may burn out of control. So this is helping me know, the Page of Cups is there to remind me that when I might feel like things are burning out of control, just go back, reconnect with my intuition, reconnect with this Page of Cups, because the Page is that beginning card, and the Cups is very emotional. And so, look back at my intuition, and this card is going to be a friend with, by helping me with those emotions, and helping me, not get too sucked into something, too sucked into emotions where I feel like that I can't make a decision, or I can't, I just feel like, oh, this is, I've sat here and I've spent the last 10 minutes, scrolling on my phone when I should have been doing something else. So this is just reminding me that, it's okay. Maybe you just needed that 10 minutes. And so now, check back in, and the Nine of Wands is going to be there, to reignite that passion, reignite that flame, and you can get back to work. So what challenges might this card bring? So this here, I have the Three of Pentacles. And the Three of Pentacles is usually working with other people, doing something, creating something, working with other people. And so looking at the Nine of Wands, when I'm creating and when I am putting up boundaries, I want to make sure that I am not going in too much, so I'm not, not ignoring what's going on around me, and knowing when to step back, and knowing when to re-engage, knowing when to let the boundaries down, knowing when a battle is over, and knowing when to let go. And so those might be challenges that come up. And so here, this is just getting back out there, and reconnecting, and knowing, and really being appreciative about the other people in my life. And then, what lesson may I learn from this card? And this is the Four of Cups. And this is great, because the Four of Cups is missing out on things, and looking at a situation in just one way, and it ends up you end up missing something that is great because you're so focused on one thing. And that wand's energy can be very much like that. And I have Aries energy, and so it can be very much like that. I get very focused on one thing, one way to do things, and I forget that there are other choices and there's other ways to do things. And so, looking at that and keeping that in mind and saying, I really want to get this done, and it just doesn't seem to be working out. How can I go back to that Nine of Wands energy? How can I renegotiate boundaries, or do something that's going to be very creative, so that I can not miss out on other opportunities that are coming up. So that's my card for the year, the Nine of Wands, and my spirit allies for the year, ashwagandha and red jasper. And I am going to let my candle here burn on my desk for the rest of the day as I'm at my desk, and then I'll let it burn out over the next, few days or so, or however long it lasts, and just kind of bring that energy in, that cyclical energy of us moving from 2025 to 2026. So do this for yourself. Let me know what cards you get, and what is if you're going to work with allies this year, what is that going to be? And I would love to hear what you're going to work with, and cards you're going to work with, or crystals or decks or herbs or anything that you're going to be working with for this year. So let me know, and I will see you again soon. Bye.